This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
A U.S. judge blocks Trump's ban on social media app WeChat. 133 migrants rescued off the Libyan coast. And Tunisia announces a third wave of COVID-19 infections as the focus shifts to infected health workers. Hello and a warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongano in Nairobi. Also coming up this half hour. South Africa considers creating theme parks to accommodate sensitivities about apartheid-era statues. And in sports, fans in Italy allowed to attend a Serie A match for the first time since March. We start the program in the United States, where a California court has blocked President Trump's ban on the social media app WeChat. Ruling in favor of the U.S. WeChat Users Alliance, Judge Laurel Beeler ruled that the Trump administration's executive order banning WeChat imposed excessive restraints on the free speech of WeChat users. The court was also sympathetic to the communication and cultural needs of the Chinese diaspora in the United States, saying other platforms could not practically replace WeChat because of the connection WeChat provides to the Chinese American community. And U.S. President Donald Trump says he approves in principle of a deal that will allow video sharing platform TikTok to continue its American operations. TikTok's owner, ByteDance, says it hopes the three-party agreement between it and American companies Oracle and Walmart will resolve Washington's security concerns. The U.S. has delayed a ban on TikTok for 1 week. Earlier, we spoke with our correspondent in Los Angeles, Edith Tianshan, for more.
There's still so much we don't know about this agreement between TikTok and Oracle. We do know that for over a week now, these two companies had reached a tentative agreement, but still there are many questions about how exactly we got here. I mean, especially within the tech industry, many people are still surprised that Microsoft, which was considered the strongest bidder all along, got rejected from this deal, and instead a smaller and less experienced company like Oracle landed on this massive deal. From the way Donald Trump is talking about this deal, it's really all about politics. He's emphasizing the fact that this will create new opportunities, it will protect U.S. interests. He's almost as if he's trying to appeal to his voter base and sort of portray this agreement as his latest achievement. Speaking to the press on Saturday, this is what he had to say.
TikTok is moving along. We're dealing with Oracle, and we're dealing with, as a combination, Walmart. Will most likely be incorporated in Texas. It'll be a brand new company. It will have nothing to do with any outside land, any outside country. It will have nothing to do with China.
This deal is far from being finalized because we are still waiting for the final word from the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. That is the government agency that will be reaching a decision on whether or not it addresses the national security concerns here in the U.S. And one thing we also shouldn't forget is the fact that the Chinese government does also play a role, especially after having changed their export rules recently. They are concerned about how much of this secret algorithm that is really the secret sauce of this application, the Chinese company, may be sharing with the U.S. partners here. That is a major concern for China, obviously. And that's why in the weeks and months ahead, we are still waiting to hear from that final reaction from both governments. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Los Angeles.
Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says U.S. efforts to restore UN sanctions will fail. And he said Washington's maximum pressure campaign against Tehran had thrown the U.S. into maximum isolation. Rouhani's remarks followed a joint statement issued by France, Germany and Britain, which said a U.S. attempt to force a snapback of UN sanctions would have no legal effect. However, US President Donald Trump plans to issue an executive order allowing him to impose US sanctions on anyone violating sanctions against Iran. Tehran has called the move economic terrorism.
The regime in the White House has no option just to respect the international regulations and norms and also stop terrorizing the world, stop the illegal and criminal actions, these economic terrorism, unilateral and extraterritorial sanctions against the great nation and people of Iran, and more important, to compensate all the damages caused to my people. We expect, as it has been shown up until now, the international community and all countries in the world to stand against these reckless actions by the regime in the White House and speak in one voice to stop these actions by the regime in the White House.
Now, a key ally of Iran, Russia, condemned the United States' actions, saying Washington's attempt lacks legal authority. The Russian Foreign Ministry says American sanctions are illegitimate and accuses the U.S. of putting on what it calls a theatrical performance. Moscow has reiterated its full support for the landmark 2015 Iran nuclear accord, which the U.S. pulled out of in 2018. Washington's moves come even as Tehran has allowed the UN nuclear watchdog to resume inspections of its nuclear sites. Now, the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide stands at more than 30.8 million. A database by Johns Hopkins University also shows the death toll has now topped 957,000. The United States, India and Brazil remain the most affected countries. The World Health Organization says a vaccine is critical to ending the pandemic, while also calling for extra precautions to better control the virus. In Tunisia, 450 medics and paramedics have tested positive for the coronavirus. That's according to the country's COVID-19 task force. One doctor and one pharmacist have died just this week in the last setback for frontline health workers in the fight against COVID-19. Health agencies say infections have spread rapidly since the country's borders reopened on the 27th of June. CGTN's Adnan Chouachi has that story.
The Ministry of Health has warned Tunisians that the country has entered the third phase of its COVID-19 outbreak. Fawzi Mehdi pointed out that the death rate from the virus has not exceeded 1%, while the average age of those who died is 75 years.
I call on Tunisian citizens to coexist with the virus without fear, while respecting the health instructions and hygiene standards. The next stage requires vigilance, caution, and the application of the health protocol in public places.
The minister has announced the opening of Al Manza Field Hospital. This sports facility has 80 beds equipped with ventilators and 4 ICU beds.
The hospital is ready to accommodate patients from the very first signs of infection. The number of ICU beds during this period meets the needs without exceeding the accommodation capacity. We still need to overcome coordination problems towards proper bed distribution of patients.
The national coordinator for the anti-COVID-19 program and spokesperson for the health ministry stressed that the number of infected medical and paramedical staff is likely to increase in the country.
450 medics and paramedics have tested positive for COVID-19. The increase is in light of community transmissions of the virus due to the spread of active outbreaks in many areas. Epidemiological investigations showed that most infections caused by the disease took place outside hospitals.
The National Observatory of New and Emerging Diseases revealed that several medics and paramedics contracted the virus outside hospitals. The infected individuals later spread the coronavirus inside a number of health facilities. The Ministry of Health is carrying out massive screening to isolate infected medics, paramedics and patients. The active outbreaks discovered at some health facilities are currently under control, while ongoing investigations are carried out to prevent the spread of the virus. Adnan Chouachi, CGTN, Tunis.
Let's go to Ethiopia now, where leading opposition leaders Jawar Mohammed and Bekele Gerba are among 24 people who have been arrested on terrorism charges. The group is expected to appear in court on Monday. The charges against them could carry sentences of life imprisonment. The charges relate to violence that erupted after the killing of popular singer Hachalu Hundessa in June this year. In the days that followed his death, over 230 people died in inter-ethnic violence and clashes with security forces. You're watching Africa Live. Time now for a short break. Here's what's still ahead on the program. Coming up, Egypt announces yet another ancient archaeological find as 20 colored caskets are found in the Western Desert. And South Africa considers creating theme parks to accommodate sensitivities about apartheid-era statues. Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climate and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories. Let's have a look. We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo, Juba, Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice. A German charity organization has said it's rescued 133 migrants stranded in the southern Mediterranean Sea. The charity CI said the rescue mission was able to pull migrants off 3 different boats on Saturday. CGTN's Joy Kirukijuma reports.
A mission to save migrants stranded at sea. Among those rescued were 8 minors and 8 women. Several of those injured, including a pregnant woman, received treatment. Assistance they got from a German charity organization known as CI.
There were actually 90 people in the dinghy, 8 of them women and 8 children who are now on board the Alan Kurdi. While we were still rescuing them, we saw another boat at the same time. That is where our rubber dinghies went. It was a wooden boat with 24 people on board, whom we also rescued and who are also on board with us now.
According to Captain Ebeling, informing German and Libyan authorities of the stranded migrants has borne no fruit yet.
We are now on our way to a third reported position, where there might still be people in distress, but then we will still continue our journey and hope to find a safe haven quickly.
In a statement by CI, the Alan Kurdi was on its way to the Italian port of Lampedusa. Libya is a major transit point for migrants heading to Europe, fleeing war and poverty. The European Union has partnered with Libya's Coast Guard and other local groups in recent years to stem the dangerous sea crossings. But rights groups are concerned that these policies have left migrants exposed to armed groups or indefinitely confined in detention centers. Joy Kirukijuma, CGTN.
Egypt has announced another ancient archaeological find in its western desert. 20 colored caskets have been found in the Saqqara area. Studies are now currently underway to identify who the remains inside the caskets belong to. CGTN's Adil Al-Makhraoui spoke to Mustafa Waziri, the head of the archaeological team that made the discovery.
An Egyptian archaeological team led by Mustafa Waziri, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, has made a great Egyptological discovery. Their excavations at the Saqqara area, that's west of Cairo, found a shaft leading to an old Egyptian burial site. The team found several chambers and have so far unearthed 20 well-preserved coffins.
We started just a couple of weeks ago, and we were really lucky. We found the beginning of a shaft with a lot of debris, of course. We start taking this debris out. We found that the shaft is almost 10 meters depth. a lot of dusts. We start cleaning step by step. We found a lot of objects, especially statues, wooden statues of the god Bitah Sukr, and he was the main god of this area.
The coffins are believed to be from the 26th dynasty and are estimated to be around 2,500 years old. Time was kind to them, preserving their bright colors and keeping the wooden shell intact. So mummies inside are expected to be in great shape.
We're still studying to figure out, to realize more and more and more information about those guys. But according to the condition of the wooden coffins, about the final and the perfect colors, paintings, hieroglyphic, so it seems to me that those guys, they were high-rank people. Till now I cannot tell. Were they high priests? Were they judges? Were they nobles? I don't know yet.
Because the discovery is very recent, the coffins must be left for weather conditioning before they're opened. Waziri says they're expecting to unearth more findings as their excavations at this site continue. The iconic Djoser Step Pyramid marks the desert site of the Saqqara area, the necropolis of ancient Egypt. In recent years, this archaeological site has witnessed great discoveries of well-preserved ancient Egyptian treasures. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Colonial and apartheid-era statues in South Africa are once again under the spotlight, with some people questioning their continued presence in public spaces. The country's Department of Arts and Culture has now proposed creating cultural theme parks across the country where these statues and other heritage symbols may be honoured. CGTN's Travis Andrews tells us more.
The Rhodes Memorial is a monument that continues to polarize society, but its prominent position overlooking the Cape Town metropolis may not be for much longer. This is because the statue and many others associated with the colonial and apartheid era could be moved from the public eye. That's if the government moves ahead with plans to create special theme parks to hold and commemorate them. A consultative team led by the Department of Arts and Culture is steering the process. It will advise the government on the creation of the cultural theme parks after a full audit of all statues, symbols and monuments is done.
It's something that has happened in many societies when memorials are decommissioned and they are given an alternative home so that they can continue to be a place where they can be thought about, not a place prominently positioned where their task is to proclaim something to the society or to be celebrated.
The statues are expected to be moved in a prescribed manner, as their preservation is protected under current legislation. The process also has to be reviewed by the Cabinet before getting the green light. It's not just statues and monuments that will be affected. The names of some streets and public places are also expected to be changed.
Precisely what such a nation-building theme park will be, I don't know. But there is an opportunity for us to rethink what we mean by a monument, to move away from the celebratory framework of the heroic monument, who's either going to be a hero or a villain.
Theme parks for statues and monuments in Cape Town are not a new thing though, and the Long March to Freedom exhibition is a glimpse of what could be in store for those who've fallen from the public eye. For some Cape Townians, the statues are an important part of the mother city's history, and moving them will be akin to the sanitization of public spaces.
I don't think it's not a very good idea. I think we need to preserve some of our heritage. It's very, very important to the heritage society and the people of this province. And I don't think it's a good thing.
Now the younger generations will obviously learn about things, about the apartheid and what we've been through when it's in the public eye. So I don't think really, it's a good idea to sort of put it on one location as such.
For me, I would rather say it's much better to keep the statues instead of removing them, because at the end of the day, our kids need to see our past, they need to see our history. So if they can keep them instead of destroying them, that will be fine.
The statues of those who played a key role in South Africa's move towards a free and democratic society will continue to enjoy their prominence. including one of the late former president Nelson Mandela. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
Let's turn now to CGTN's special series, Amazingxinjiang. Starting from Horgoz, the CGTN reporting team headed to Yining, the capital of the Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture. It's famous for its rich diversity, and our reporter Xu Hao now tells us about the Shibe people, one of the nearly 40 ethnic groups there, with a rich cultural output from dress and embroidery to archery.
53-year-old Li Pin is embroidering another piece of clothing. She's been doing that for the past 20 years, a skill passed down from her parents and grandparents. For her, embroidery may just represent Saibo's unique aesthetic traditions.
I'm embroidering a bow and arrow. That's the traditional pattern for male clothing. We use different colors to embroider that. For female clothing, peony and butterfly are the main patterns. We Saibo people believe they are auspicious symbols.
The use of bright colors like red, purple, and blue suggests that these clothes are made for festivals and weddings. But they're not mass-produced. Quite the opposite, these clothes, shoes, and bedding are mostly produced for local Saibo people. That brings Li joy, despite the exhaustion that comes with it.
As I get older, my eyesight is not as good anymore, so embroidery becomes much more difficult. But I enjoy making these products with my friends. It generates income, but we are also inheriting our old culture.
Several hundred meters away from Li's workshop is where Zhao Yushu lives. He's also a craftsman. Zhao enjoys making bows and arrows by hand.
I was born into a family of carpenters, so we have a thing for making stuff with our hands. And archery is an integral part of Saibo culture because our ancestors used it for fishing and hunting. So we taught our kids archery when they were little.
So back in the mid-18th century, the Qing dynasty government gave the order to move the Saibo people from northeastern China to Xinjiang to consolidate the border. And archery became an important skill for fighting. This tradition lingers today, but instead of being used in battle, archery has become a favorite sport among the Saibo people.
We have a school that specializes in teaching archery. In fact, many athletes on the national archery team are from our county. That makes Saibo people very proud.
Though there are only 20,000 Saibo people living here, their culture and traditions are well preserved. Zhao and Li show the people here are very proud of their identity and make sure what belongs to that identity still lives on.
Coming up in your sports news, up next.